Okay, in this part of our lesson, we'll be working with congruent figures. Congruent figures are figures that have the same size and the same shape. The triangles below would be considered congruent figures. You'll notice they're exact copies of each other. So in order for that two figures to be congruent, they have to be an exact copy. One cannot be larger or smaller than the other. They maintain the same shape and the same size. You'll notice on this figure, we're also going to be working with corresponding angles as well as corresponding sides. So we're going to review through that part of it right now. So corresponding angles are going to be two angles in which they are in the same position on each of the figures, and they are equal in measure. So you'll notice here that angle B is marked the same as angle E. Those are corresponding angles. If I knew that B was, say, 89 degrees, then I would also know that E is 89 degrees. Okay, so when you have corresponding angles, those angles are in the same position. Now, you could have your figure turned, and then you would have to match. Here, the figures are just slid over or translated over. Corresponding sides are going to be two sides that are the same on each figure. So here, if we look at AC, we'll notice that that is the same side as DF. When corresponding sides are usually stated, they're stated in the same order. So if I had said side AC, then I should start with side D first, or point D to F. F to D would be a correct statement, but most accurate would be to put them in the same order. Okay, so corresponding sides are going to be the sides that are in the same position on each figure. Once again, if your figure turns, it then modifies where that side is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and practice working with some different corresponding parts. Here it's telling us that the two figures are congruent. So congruent means they're the exact same shape, also the exact same size. Name the corresponding angles and the corresponding sides. So the one thing that I do want to point out to you is you'll notice on our previous slide, the triangles were just exact copies of each other, one slid over. On this figure, the example that we're using right now, you'll notice that LM is the same as Q and V. So they have taken our figure and they've done a reflection of it, or they've flipped it over. So you have to pay very close attention when working with congruent figures, that once they turn that figure or they flip that figure, that you're still looking at it in the same manner. I try and find one distinct angle and then kind of go off of that. So when I look at this figure, this is the distinct angle that kind of sticks out to me. This angle J really points out, and you'll notice that matches angle S. So angle J corresponds to angle S. Okay, so that little thing that I put in there, they're equal to each other, they correspond to each other. So that little symbol that's between J and S, and I should have put angle symbols in front of each of those also. Okay, so J and S are the same. We've got K is in the same position as R, so angle K corresponds to angle R. L and Q are corresponding. So angle L corresponds to angle Q. Here we've got M and V. So angle M corresponds to angle V. And then our last angles are N and T. So angle N corresponds to angle T. Okay, so there are our corresponding sides. Once again, if we knew one of those angle measures, then we would know the other one, because congruent figures have the exact same measure. Similar figures do also, but congruent figures, because they would have the same side lengths, also when their sides correspond, then you would know corresponding side lengths. So like here, if I knew that angle J was, say, we'll just say 70 degrees, then that means S would also be 70 degrees. Okay, so corresponding angles are going to have the exact same angle measure. All right, let's go ahead and do corresponding sides. Once again, I like to pick out a distinct part. So since I had picked out angle J before, I'm going to go ahead and use one of those sides coming off of J. So JK, well, that's in the same position as S and R. So side JK corresponds to, and since I started with the J, the most accurate way to do it would be to start with the S. So SR. And if you want to put a line segment above that, you can. That is another way that it is sometimes stated. Okay, so let's do KL. Well, that would correspond to RQ. Oops, not LQ, RQ. Okay. LM would be QV. And then let's do MN would be VT. Oops. And then our last side that we have there would be NJ. So we'll do that one red also. NJ corresponds to TS. Now, had you had your letters reversed, you would still be identifying the correct side, just not in the exact same. The most accurate is to put them in the same order. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull one out here. I want you guys to try. Okay, so these figures are congruent. Name the corresponding angles and sides. So here they've just taken our figure and they've slid it over. They've done no rotating, no flipping or anything. So I want you to go through and find which angles correspond to angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D. And then let's go ahead and do corresponding sides. Let's do WX, XY, YZ, and ZW. Just so that it's easier for you to go ahead and compare your answers when you check them in just a minute. Okay, go ahead and pause your video and work your way through those answers. Okay, so there's your corresponding angles and corresponding sides. Once again, pay very close attention to whether or not they have taken your figure and rotated it or flipped it. If they do that, make sure you find a distinct angle and maybe go from there. Good luck with this part of the lesson.